You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
Give you a nice little detour.
Good evening and welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm your host, Tom, and I am excited to be joined here tonight by Nicole and Josh. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Here we go.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Okay, everybody, we're going to start the podcast and we're going to do it this way and at this pace because Kishori and Karishma are eliminated. Oh my gosh. Thoughts on the elimination?
I still like them, Tom. I know you guys are pretty harsh on them, but they grew on me. But I guess it was definitely time for them to go.
Yeah, it seemed like a fitting time. I was ready.
Well, we were ready to move on from them personality-wise, and oh my gosh, but that all aside, all that kind of joking aside, why was it their time to go? Why had their time on the race ended at this point?
Well, I think we saw from last episode they were in the back of the pack. They've been in the back of the pack. They clearly have never really shown much much first place skills. And when I was watching and I saw them get in the car and they couldn't drive the stick shift, I was like, just another tick on their massively growing I hate to use the word incapabilities, but it just seems like they just don't have what it takes to win this race.
What are the incapabilities? What are the deficiencies?
They can't navigate.
No.
They are not particularly athletic.
Nope.
They're not street smart.
Meaning?
So like they are probably like book smart. They went to college, but in terms of like common sense, they don't have it or not enough of it.
Right.
They're not strategic.
Nope. They can't drive a stick. They're not physically strong. They're not making good choices too. And I think that was the big thing that stood out, especially in this episode.
And they don't speak Spanish.
Right.
They can't put together IKEA furniture, which pretty much every challenge has been these like more difficult, nuanced intricacies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's them being young too, right? When you're in your early 20s, how much furniture do you put together? How much furniture do you buy? You don't own anything. If you buy or you live in a city, which they probably do somewhere, they're maybe getting stuff shipped directly to them or buying it secondhand, then it's showing up and they're putting it in, or like they're not sitting around and doing those things. I would make that fair assumption, and I think that's the truth, right?
Okay.
But I want to go back to their choices. It seemed like this episode's downfall for them. They get to the roadblock, assembling the skateboard. And I think the clue said, right, who is bored? And they're next to a skate park. So Kishori has the right read on it that it's either riding a skateboard or maybe putting one together. And she doesn't just make the decision to say, yes, I'm going to do this. She leaves it up to the daredevil, the loose cannon, the more unstable of the two of them. Karishma, who probably a cool hang, and she likes to jump out of airplanes and skydive, and she's a thrill seeker, but like that's not who you need next to a skate park. And maybe that's what deceived them. Maybe they thought too much it would be riding a skateboard instead of the putting it together. But you have to make that decision. You have to know your strengths. Like we said this last week on the podcast, people need to know the race that they're running and lean into that. And they just didn't. They make the wrong choice. Karishma implodes. She cries in that. I mean, even when they're on the detour, and they're doing the climbing. Why did they choose the climbing?
I
You're
agree.
not physically strong. You're not physically.
Because I'll tell you
You have
why.
no upper body
Because
strength.
One has long legs, the other likes being up high. That's why they did it.
Right. But what should they have done, Josh?
They should have done the other one.
Yeah, they should have been, hey, yeah, we're going to bang the drums. Oh my gosh, can we have some money? We're going to just be outward personalities. And they missed that.
Yeah, that is a very, very big miss because they are the outspoken young girls in a new city. They are like the easiest way to get money, and yet somehow they just did not see that.
So lots of tears, lots of bad choices. As we covered, they just didn't have the skills to do it. So we say goodbye to Kishori and Karishma, and we say hello to a third straight first place for Ricky and Cesar. Second place, first. These guys are dominating. They are this season's John and Greg, no doubt, confirmed, correct?
Easy.
They win an Expedia 5-night trip to Singapore. They've won $2,500 each. They're rolling in the prizes, and they want to win everything. So there was one weakness that we maybe saw, or maybe a little bit of a blip in their near perfect game that they're pitching here. And it came in the navigation. They did get a little bit lost, and we did see a little bit of the stress coming. And we did see when they got to the skate park that they were a little bit behind. They were the fourth team there. And we did see a little bit of pressure mounting. They're happy to be front running. And I guess if you win as much as they are, and with the group dynamic of the group starts, you want to keep in the front. Now, everybody wants to do that anyway, but anything to this little bit of adversity, little bit of pressure, little bit of not front running concern you about Ricky and Cesar?
No, I think it's actually exciting to see them kind of so passionate about wanting or needing to be in first place that they are kind of fiery at each other. I don't think we've seen that in a lot of other teams, and so I'm excited to watch them run. They're running like the whole episode. They're just running, and it's great and exciting because most of the other teams really have no drive to win, which is concerning. And I think also indicative of the viewer experience too. When everyone's just kind of hanging out and not really trying to win, you kind of also become a passive viewer.
I wonder if with this consistent front running, like, will they have a target on their back next episode where we saw a little tease of like alliances? Will that affect them, or will it just not at all because they're just so far better than everyone that it doesn't even matter?
Well, and are the teams seeing them as a threat as much as we are? Because we don't really get.
They have to be.
Right. We have to assume that, but we don't really hear much about that. Yes, the only strategy we really hear is from Danny, and we'll get to them in a little bit, but I would love to hear more about what other teams think of other teams. And we just don't hear any of that.
I agree. I will say I feel like consistently Amber and Vinny have been they've been at the top of the pack, right? Or at least fighting for the top of the pack, and they are calling out Ricky and Cesar. They are saying that we have to keep, like, we're here, we have a new chance, we're going to keep trying. We want first place now. We want this. They are the front runners. But you're right. From everyone else, I don't hear any sort of things on their back. There was one episode a few weeks ago where I think like Danny didn't give him information, and it was like sweet, nice boy who gives everyone information. Him not saying something was a big gameplay. But other than that, you're right. There is no separation between them.
Speaking of first place, one team talked about trying to jump up and seeing themselves as a first place team. That was Juan and Shane. Toward the end of the episode, Juan actually says that they're a first place team, but they kept coming in the middle and their abilities weren't being reflected in where they were finishing each leg. Do you agree with that? We disagree with that? Where are we at with Juan and Shane?
I feel like we haven't been able to see what their true potential is yet, because everything has just been conveniently Ricky and Cesar's strengths, right? We've been only in South America where they can speak Spanish to everybody, and that's been an asset. That's been like a really important thing. Yes, they also speak Spanish, but we haven't seen them use it quite as much as them. And like, so like, what are their strengths?
Strength. Physical
Right.
strength.
I feel like there haven't been that many like brute force challenges where they could really just take off ahead of people.
But I think the bigger point is he's saying that they don't really have many weaknesses. And he's right. Like, we haven't seen them anywhere further down than 5th place through 5 legs. And now they're in a second. And they're right there to catch a first place. And they're a first place caliber team. It just hasn't reflected in the result. Do you agree with that, Josh?
Yes, I do. I think that they're a strong team, but I think the race this season is not like other seasons. I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but when you get ahead of other teams and then you start the next day with 2 other teams that you just beat out, it's not consecutive. And so I think we're kind of equalizing it and we're not letting them shine.
I think they're a first place team, not just because I ranked them second and could have easily put them first. I think they're a first place team because A, they know exactly the kind of race they need to be running, which is a physical one, which is why they did the climbing and had no issues at the repurposed cement factory place, which is why Juan is an engineer. He had no mechanical issues, right? They're military guys. I think it was Shane is in the Air Force. Like, I'm not doubting their ability to put furniture together. Like, they're clearly the men of their house and they've put IKEA furniture together, like that kind of stuff. I'm not worried about it. But the biggest thing, and this is why I think they are a first place team, is their communication, which was a big theme of this episode. And I think that they know how to talk to each other. And because they're like boys, there is no drama like Amber and Vinny have to overcome. There is no lack of time spent together like Sunny and Busy are trying to overcome, right? Like, they're friends, but we talked about that on the last pod, that they're still like they haven't logged as much time and adversity and as like Juan and Shane in their training have had them go through together. Right. Which I think, again, they are capable of first place, and I agree with him. They just haven't had that result.
Why don't you think that they had that result though? Because it's easy to say that they should be a first place team, but they're not in first place and they haven't come even close to first place.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that Ricky and Cesar are very strong. That's first and foremost. And it's the little things, right? Maybe just screwing up what was it? What did he screw up? He didn't figure out the wheel color. He knew how to put it all together, but he didn't think or know that. And they're maybe not playing as much with the right partners in this game because they're trying to help like Rod and Leticia. Because I guess he just bonds better with a Rod. That makes more sense.
I agree.
Than to look at Danny and be like, that's the guy I should try to get help from and be an ally with. It's probably maybe it's as simple as that, right? Like, making the wrong little alliance that in those moments where you could use a clue of, oh, it's the wheel color. And then you can save 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes would have gotten you first.
Yep.
Maybe it is that, but they have enough things going for them that they can compensate and still finish second. And there's a little bit of luck, right? Like, it doesn't always turn your way, or it doesn't always work out exactly. A little navigation here, a little wrong turn there, and boom, you got second instead of first. That's the race.
They just need Ricky and Cesar to mess up.
I think every team needs that. Let's move on. Third place was Amber and Vinny. still staying up in the top, clearly part of the contenders of this race. Okay, so are we more concerned about them and their dynamic and relationship and lack of navigation skills? Is that more of a standout, or are we confident in them because of the results that we're seeing? They're up in the top three again. Where are we seeing them more?
I am still confident in them. I like something that I liked that I saw this episode was them like reflecting on their communication from the week before and going forward, saying like Amber was like, okay, I'm gonna try to be less reactive, and he's going to let me set the pace, and like he acknowledges, yeah, we're not gonna go far and win if I'm speeding ahead of her. Like we have to let her set the pace. Okay, that's what we're gonna do this leg. Okay. And so like they're very much on the same page and like strategic in that sense.
But they're still working through that. It's still like you actively see them when they're in the car. Amber saying, you're going too fast. Or when he's trying to be encouraging, you're not helping. There's like a constant refining of that, but you're not worried about that. You're still confident.
Yeah. They'll be okay.
Yes, I am very, very concerned with them.
All right.
Seen any good communication, and it's interesting the way that you put it, how it she kind of comes off as like annoying or like bringing up all of these issues. I see it as the actual opposite. I think that she's communicating, she's saying her needs, she's saying, this is what I need. And he keeps saying like, oh, be quiet. Like, oh, stop. Oh, please. You need to like, and keeps shutting her down. This is not the first week we've seen it over and over and over again. And then he pretends to be the good guy. He pretends to be the guy that's like, well, I'm just trying to do my thing, and you just keep getting in the way. It's like, no, you're working together as a team. Work together as a team. Listen to each other. She's communicating, and you're shutting her down. I think it's gonna get even worse. And I do see this as part of their demise.
One thing that got mentioned throughout this episode was, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit more later too, but like at this point, if you're Vinny, like what do you need to do? Like what is, and we're not Vinny, but what is her love language? We heard that term thrown around a couple times. Like what is Amber's love language in this dynamic of the race, and how do you meet that while still trying to race for $1 million?
I think he needs to know when to back off a little. Like when she is rock climbing and he's trying to help, but he's saying like, put this foot here, put this foot here. No, keep going, push harder. And she's just like, stop.
Can you stop talking?
Can you stop talking? And yeah. That's what she needed in that moment was, okay, stop. And so he needs to know when to back off.
And I think the issue, you're exactly right, Nicole. The issue is that he doesn't back off, right? Like, and this is where I keep saying is she's communicating. She's saying, we need to pull over. I don't know where we are. And he's like, we're driving. Here we go. And then gets to a red light and says, where are we? And she says, I don't know. I've been telling you, I don't know where we are. And then what does he say? Give me the map, right? It's like shutting her down, not listening to her, and not like trying to speak her language, only pile driving and speaking his language.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll switch drivers too. That would be because the trouble navigating has clearly been an issue each leg. And I wonder if that's the way to really solve it, or if it's just take the time at the beginning to map it out together. There's some key to unlock their trouble in navigating, but they are not using the right key.
He's way too controlling. He needs to be in charge. There's no way that he would take a backseat. No way.
Would it be helpful if he did?
No, I think it would be worse.
Yeah, only as long as she's capable of driving and following directions.
You're not confident in her ability to do that?
No.
In my mind, he's not a clear communicator. right? So this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the last minute. He's going to say, turn right. She's not going to turn right because it was a bad communication. And then he's going to tell her that it's her fault, right? And this is the issue. I mean, he was going too fast and she said, I can't keep up, right? Like, I'm trying to stay where we are and I'm trying to tell you where you need to go, but you're not listening. You're just still driving too fast. You're still, and so he's not going to listen to her either way.
So bad communication equals trouble navigating for one team, but good communication equals good navigating for our fourth place team. Angie and Danny, I think it's official to say that we were totally wrong on Angie and Danny.
Yes.
I asked Nicole right in the beginning of this episode, are they this season's Rob and Corey?
No. I said no.
I agree.
Then the difference is Rob and Corey won America's hearts, first of all.
Of course.
Second of all, even though Rob was older and he's the dad, like he was still very much capable of doing a lot. Whereas Angie, like anything physical is really a hindrance. She really can't do it, so it seems. So I don't think that they are a first place team.
Fair. But I meant
Rob and Corey,
they're a first place.
they're a first place team. They are not.
See, I guess I'm trying to re-gauge how great of a player Danny really is, because we hear his mother talk about how he's the secret weapon. We see his navigation skills, just his overall pacing of the race, taking care of navigating. People are following them. They make the right choices because of Angie's limitations. They have to run a certain race. They can't hop fences into the skate park. They have to run around it. Could that catch up with them eventually? Sure. But Danny's capabilities, her limitations, their communication, his skill and fandom and strategy to work with other people, and her kind of pushing back a little bit more, I feel like it's putting them in the Robin Corey, the Mustachios ability to kind of like be that team that comes in the top three that maybe you didn't think would.
No, I mean, mostly because I think Corey is an all-star, right? If you put Rob and Corey versus Rob and Danny, I think Rob and Corey win every time. Maybe not every time, but I do think that Danny and Angie are strong, and they are winning our hearts. They're winning my heart. They're really fun to watch. And even like the comment of how Rod lost his nuts, and then Angie's like giggling and saying, "You can't say that." It's like that's the personality that we want to see. That's what like gets us to know them. I feel like I know them almost the best on this season. I feel like I know Rod and Leticia very, very well. But then there are people like Juan and Sean who you don't really see their personality, or Derek and Shalisa, or that they're just kind of there.
Derek and Shalisa.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
I would say the lesbians, I don't even remember their name because they hardly get any airtime. We don't know them.
Yeah, they are the ghosts of the season.
That's true. Yvonne and Melissa.
Yeah.
Angie mentions at the mat that they need to start running their own race. We're down to a final 8. They are team number 4. They have shown themselves to be a team that can have, as they put it, the lollipop of first place in their mouth, but get it ripped out of their mouth by the other teams. Is this the time for them to begin to fully run their own race, stop helping other teams navigate, stop all the alliances, and just start going at their own pace? Or is their race actually the one that Danny's been running?
Their race is the one that Danny's been running. They should not change their gameplay. I think that Danny is playing with his heart. He's crying every single episode. He's winning our hearts. He's actually doing well. He's spent this whole race establishing relationships with other teams, and we're actually seeing it where it helps them. right? They arrived and Amber and Vinny went out of their way to say, go straight back to the right. That's where the car is. That's why he's playing this race. They are the least physically capable team on this season. We know that. It's not, and Angie tells us every episode, but because of these relationships that he's established, that's why they're also doing well. So if they start to play their own race, I actually don't think that they would be as competitive as they are right now.
I'm not saying they should cut all alliances that they have, but I definitely agree with Angie in that he is way too giving with help. Like, stop helping everybody. That doesn't help you. You like put a target on someone. Like, that's what I want to see.
Yes, we want that strategy, right? Of course. But can I push back and say that maybe Danny sees this as, hey, we're in the top half. Let's help these people, because ultimately there's still 5 teams behind us. Let's just keep helping each other, and as a group of 4, move this party along and leave the rest behind. Don't come in last? Okay. Don't come in last together until the final 4 and then start breaking away. I think that's the best strategy, especially for them. They're on, I would argue, house money at this point.
Yes, I agree.
Because we saw what happened in Puerto Vallarta. They were out in the hot sun. She literally collapsed on the floor. And luckily, they were able to do the Dia de los Muertos painting while she was laying on the floor. And we saw on the tease for next week, is she out? Like, she said something about out. That was like, whoa.
Oh, that's strategic editing to make you think, oh, is she out of the game? No, she's probably just like, oh, I need a timeout. Okay, time back in.
Well, but it's believable that it could be literally an exit stage left for them because of her limitations being at that level. 5th place, we had Rod and Leticia, baby. In 5th place, baby, we had Rod and Leticia, baby. They had a good race this so far, baby. I think they're prone to do more good things, baby.
We get it.
I love Rod. He cracks me up. Somebody out there, maybe I should just do it, but I want to get a baby count. How many babies he drops?
Well, Tom came up with that idea mid-episode, and I was like, we would have to go back from the beginning.
I know,
We're
baby.
not doing that.
Come on, baby. We're doing great, baby. Let's. I mean, it's right out of the gate. Let's go, baby. Let's be great today, baby. All the babies aside, they finished 5th. Orange team, not a good
week for them.
Not a great week, baby. Josh, is this the beginning of Team Baby's demise?
I think there are a few more teams that are probably going to go before them, but I think they're nearing in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, they are. They're not a first place team. I think we see that. We see their weaknesses, but I do think that they are strong competitors.
What are the weaknesses that you're seeing? Like, what are you seeing in them that makes you confident in that being their destiny in the race?
Let's look at an example. Rod lost a nut this episode.
I love the nut, baby.
They were there first or second, right? He spent the 4 places looking for this darn nut. Like, Ricky and Cesar would never do that. And I think that like, again, right? This is where we look at the teams at the beginning of the season and we say there are the teams that are no shotters. They are the people that are going to be out the first 4 weeks. Rod and Leticia, no, they're actually good. They're good competitors, but they're also not the top 3. And so I don't see them leaving next week, but they're going to be leaving in a few weeks, and I'm okay with that. I love their positivity, and I really admire their communication. And one thing that we were talking about before is knowing who you are, and they do. Leticia had a significant amount of airtime where she was talking about like all these girls were all over Rod and giving him whatever he wanted, and I'm not that way. I am
girls.
What?
She called them yes girls.
Yes, girls, exactly. Yeah. I think that that's like an interesting insight into who they are and how they communicate and what they know about themselves and what they admire in each other. And I thought that was refreshing to hear. Versus people like Kishori and Karishma who don't really know who they are and don't really fit in that way.
I believe it is the beginning of their demise. And I think it is because we saw the bad navigating, the lack of communication in Rod listening to Leticia.
Yeah.
At the detour, they chose to do the band. On the one hand, the communication was bad because Leticia is too passive. She's not a beggar. Like, Leticia is not going to run around and stick out a hat on a stick and be excited to beg people for money. She doesn't do that she does that on Instagram.
No,
but
I was just about to say, when she earns her money, all she has to do is post a picture.
Correct.
She's not working hard at convincing people to buy whatever product she's selling
Well, face to face.
face to face.
Right. There's a difference. She's great at it behind a screen,
Yeah,
but not face to face.
Yeah.
But also, it's not her personality.
no.
She is much more reserved. She is, as Rod tells us, passive.
Also, who did you think of when you saw this challenge? Do you know who I thought of? Bert from Mary Poppins, the one-man band. It's a jolly holiday with Mary, where he's doing boom, boom. He is a big Dick Van Dyke, big personality, right?
Yep.
And who's the big personality?
Rod. So Rod from the beginning should have been the one-man band. No, he was.
No,
he was.
No, it was. No, you got. Rod should have listened
Rod
to
should have been-
Leticia
yeah.
and let her be the one-man band, because unlike Bert, it didn't really matter if you were a big personality with the one-man band.
Can we talk about just
Rod should have been
the
begging.
issue with the challenge?
Please, I saw a lot of it.
When I first saw, they're doing a one-man band thing, I thought they'd have to actually learn a routine.
And they said they did for 30 seconds.
And
a 30-second routine.
I was very disappointed that there was no routine.
None.
They just walked around.
No policing, no expert.
No. And so had it been a true, like, they had to learn how to play this unique instrument, that would have been so much more interesting to watch than them begging people. I don't like watching begging, just like I didn't like watching it many, many seasons ago when if it was a non-elimination leg, but you got to stick around the next episode, the caveat was, well, you lose everything and you need to beg for money to get a train ticket.
Yeah.
And we didn't like seeing that. That was like icky, right? So like, why are we bringing begging back? If we're going to bring something back, bring something good from The Amazing Race, not begging.
To piggyback on that, I also want to shit on this challenge just a little bit, because when Phil introduced this challenge, do you recall what he said? He said, like all big cities, this city also has street performers. And my jaw went to the floor and said, we're watching The Amazing Race because we want to learn about the intricacies of this city. We want to learn about what's nuanced about it. We want to learn about the interesting aspects of their culture. And instead, Phil is saying, like all other cities, we also have street performers. Get out of here. That's not fun to watch. That doesn't tell us anything about it.
Santiago or San Diego?
Yes. I mean, from the very beginning, Rod and Leticia was setting the stage for the kind of leg they were going to have. Did you catch that, Josh? The San Diego?
Missed that.
So a lot of circling back, Rod immediately should have been the beggar, because if you saw, I mean, the baby count went up through the roof when he got there. Come on, baby, give me some of the pesos, baby. And he was like all about it. When he got back to the expert and gave him the money, he was like in the guy's face, like ready to chest bump with him. Just he comes alive when interacting with people. And that was the job that he should have been doing from the beginning. I think a beginning of the demise for them.
So to support that, Tom, we saw last week, right? It was the hip hop challenge, and same exact thing. She said, "Rod, I'm not going to be good for this challenge," and he pile drived and said, "I'm doing it." And
come on, baby, we going to do the breakdance, baby.
So I support this, the sense that like maybe this is their demise, right? It is catching up to them, and if this happens again next week, it might be detrimental.
We get to the last group, and we start with the ghosts. Yvonne and Melissa, remember them? The maroon team that is in the race. You guys remember them?
Barely.
They get to the mat, and Melissa shows a little bit of a passion for wanting to be doing this with Yvonne, and Yvonne just kind of puts her arm around her. I don't know about you guys, but I think this has been a consistent thing. Just feel nothing. There's no connection to this team. I still feel like we know absolutely nothing about them. And they're just comfortably, maybe it's in part because they're just in the 6, 7, 8 range, or maybe it's something else.
Well, this was the first week that Phil actually asked them a question.
It's 5 episodes in.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we just haven't had enough opportunities to know them.
Yeah, I agree. However, I did actually feel the connection. I mean, I think maybe I was just startled in the sense that they actually got some airtime, but I was glad to see it. You know, they have been this mystery ghost team that to see any passion, to hear anything about them is kind of what I've been craving.
No lack of passion for our 7th place and 8th place teams. Sunny and Busy, the firefighters, Josh and I's #1 team for our power rankings, which we've already covered why we were wrong on that. We exit this episode, and their lack of directions and navigation skills is super concerning. And also this comeback strategy. They're finding themselves calling themselves the comeback kids, because last week they were on death's door in the race. And this week as well, they were in dead last. And the editing made it look probably a lot worse than it actually was. But can you really move forward and be confident in the race as if you're calling yourselves the comeback kids?
You're not in last, you're still in the race. What I could elaborate on, though, is that finally they are doing the physical challenge. We've seen them consecutively for weeks just take on the brain challenge and absolutely fail at it. So I was so glad to see them climbing the rock wall. And you know what? They killed it. Like, it was great. So maybe they are learning something, and maybe they will get out of this slump, and maybe they will take home first, but time will tell.
And even the assembling of the skateboard, it's a mechanical thing. It's equipment. It's putting stuff together. I would assume, being in a firehouse, these things are familiar to them. So that was also an advantage, that kind of slingshotted them, even though they got there last, up past Derek, past Karishma, and into 8th place.
Yeah, I think they just keep getting lucky that they are able to, by the skin of their teeth, get just ahead enough in the nick of time to not be last. But I don't know that that'll keep happening for them.
Yeah, especially with the directions and navigation being a problem.
Yeah, to add on that it's very concerning, right? Watching the top 3 or 4 or 5 teams just easily find the clue box, then find the car, make it happen, go to the next one. And then we see Sunny and Busy, Kishori and Kishori and Karishma, and Derek and Leticia, like, just fumble it. It's showing that these are the next weak teams to go.
Yeah, and there's a clear line of demarcation between.
Yeah.
Where would you cut it off? At Angie and Danny, or Rod and Leticia?
I think Rod and Leticia.
So that's like the top five. This episode is the top five that we expect to be in the top five.
Yeah.
Okay. Last team that we're going to talk about here, we'll round it out with the yellow team, Derek and Shalisa. At the end of their leg, they barely finish in 8th place, avoiding elimination. And Derek talks about all the mistakes they made, and he thought that it was going to kill them. And they were like really shocked that they were able to advance. They know each other. They know each other's love languages.
I feel like there had to be mistakes that weren't aired. Like, how did they end up so far behind? I don't get it.
I think it's the navigation.
Yeah, but still, they were the first person to the car. Even though there were 3 teams that couldn't find the car, they got to the car first. But yeah, they didn't hold it. I also agree. I don't really know why they're not doing well, but they are just kind of there.
Yeah, even at like the assembling of the skateboard, they're making the right choice there. Derek does it. When they go to the detour, they're doing the climbing, which they're both fit. Like they're aware of the kind of race that they should be running. I think they're capable of all the physical tasks, and they've communicated that that's the straightforward path, which is probably best for them as grandparents, retired people. I don't know that they're able to really capitalize on that wisdom over youth piece of it.
At least with the challenges presented to them thus far.
Out of 100 times, how many times do they win this race?
I think the answer is 0, right?
Maybe 1.
Did you want to talk about Megaleg next week?
Okay, so before we go to our power rankings and cross the finish line, a final thought. We got a good tease for episode 6, or maybe not. We are coming up on a second Megaleg. How excited on a scale of 0 to 10 are you about another Megaleg?
-4.
I'm excited just to see Josh be enraged.
Me too.
These Megalegs are painful. They're painful. I don't know why we keep doing them. They're stupid. We're also doing 1-day races. We need to just get over these Megalegs. Move on. Move on. I don't want to see people tired. It keeps happening. We just watched the second leg of the Megaleg. Everyone's too tired. Everyone makes mistakes. Oh, wow, this is a hard race. No, it's awful for the viewer. Stop the damn Megalegs.
How did you feel about this episode?
I think it's consistent with the rest of the season. It feels very passive. I don't really feel like I'm an active viewer and I'm rooting for these teams to do well. I'm very much a passive watcher, kind of lackadaisically, just letting it happen. Oh, they came in first. Okay. Oh, they came in last. Okay.
The challenges weren't designed with the viewer in mind, it seems. Like, it's not entertaining to watch somebody put together a skateboard. It's just not. And they need more entertaining challenges. It's not entertaining to watch someone ask someone else for pesos. Had they been trying to learn a one-man band choreography, that would have been more entertaining. That's not what it was.
And there wasn't even that many people around. Where are all the people in the city?
Well,
right?
COVID.
Yeah, there's the magic word perhaps again. Let's go to our power rankings. Folks, you are literally looking at a perfect card. And I know this isn't baseball, so I can talk about it, but Josh is throwing a perfect game right now. He has, with Kishori and Karishma going out, he now crosses off his number 10 team. So he has number 13, Chris and Mary, number 12, Anthony and Bailey, number 11, Michelle and Sean, number 10, Karishma and Kishori, and number 9, Maya and Rohan, all crossed off. He has literally the lowest possible score you could have through 5 episodes with a low score of 36, almost 20 points ahead of us.
Yeah, but look at his
I know.
Ricky and Cesar, so Cesar.
Okay, Josh, take a victory lap.
Thank
Round-
you. Thank you very much. I do. I think that it was easy. These are the easy outs, right? And like, I do feel lucky that I got them all right. It is pretty crazy, but I think now we start to get harder. This is where the rest of the season is where it starts to get interesting. Aside from Ricky and Cesar, who else is in second and third? I can see any one of these other teams in second and third. Maybe not. So I'm busy, but all of the other ones, Yvonne and Melissa, I could see them sneaking into third place. Derek and Shalisa, I could see them up there. Rod and Leticia, Danny and Angela, like these are all teams that could be competing for the top. So I'm excited for the next half of the season, and I'm excited to see how these cards play out.
I'm excited that this has happened because we've been doing this for what?
It's crazy.
5 or 6 seasons now. And it's just amazing. We've had people cross off, the last team on their rankings after the first episode and the first team on their rankings after the first episode. So we've had some funny stuff happen, but to see a perfect card through 5 episodes, I mean, I'm just excited that the rankings have had this historical moment. So we must remember this, and I'm really blowing smoke because it's going to come down. It's all
yeah, it's like
all right. Let's cross the finish line.
To cross the finish line, I would like to say, can we get out of South America? For God's sakes, I've had it. Can we travel the world a little? I thought this was a race around the world, not a race around South America, where Cesar can continue to just speak Spanish to everybody. I've had it. And now we're gonna have a mega leg
In
continued in South America.
Yeah.
Enough already.
I hinted at it earlier, but I think it's very clear that these episodes are all taking place in one day. It is start as the sun is rising, have these challenges that maybe take an hour or two, a little bit of travel, not too much, and get there by dusk. And I think it's clear that we're not seeing the challenges where teams are there for 12 hours and this exciting, captivating television, because a team leaves and then 5 minutes later, the second team is behind, or the next group of teams is behind them. And I'm just pretty bummed about that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I specifically hate the Mega Leg in this format, because now we're adding 4 challenges in the same day. And it's just not exciting TV to watch.
I'll cross the finish line with a little bit of a out of left field thought. I really keep being reminded with this season about it being skipped over by season 35, even though this was supposed to be 35. In the roadblock when we were assembling the skateboard said AR and had the 35 in the middle.
And I guess I just can't get past it. I hate that we're going back in time, and I feel like each week we're seeing the seeds of what was instead of what will be in the future for the Amazing Race.
You can't get that opportunity back, and it feels like something could have been different, because I think we're really feeling the effects of the limitations of this season. On that note, we say thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Josh. Thank you to our supporters out there. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe at Tribal Council Blog on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out. Leave a comment. What are your thoughts on this episode? We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week, a more exciting episode, and we will cover it right here on the ReRACEables Podcast. We'll see you next week.